Touchdown, Pittsburgh!
Touchdown, Washington!
What's up, boys and girls? Welcome to a brand new episode of the Steelskin Show, a show hosted by one diehard Pittsburgh Steelers fan and one diehard Washington Redskins fan. From game recaps, game previews, news headlines, analysis, opinions, and all kinds of other stuff, we've got you covered on all things Pittsburgh Steelers and Washington Redskins. My name is Patrick, and I'm the voice of the Pittsburgh Steelers here on the show.
And I'm Chris, the voice of the Washington Redskins.
Yeah, Chris, how are you tonight? Oh, yeah. We don't, yeah, right. I forget we're in the regular season now. I got to be careful.
Yeah.
we both are going to have to.
Don't ask.
We both are going to have to be careful about how we speak to each other.
I know. Yeah, we could get triggered really quick.
Yeah, real quick. Chris, down to Beltway business. Let's just get right to it tonight. Week 1 of the 2017 NFL season is in the books. The Pittsburgh Steelers got it done on the road in their opener against the Cleveland Browns. Not in the best way possible. More on that game in just a second. And the Washington Redskins, disappointing opener for them as they went down.
Wet the bed.
Yeah, disappointing opener for them against the Philadelphia Eagles. Final score of 30-17. Is the sky falling? Are we no longer Team Kirk? Find out later in the show. More on that game later. But I guess we'll start tonight with the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Okay, so
and the Cleveland Browns.
Patrick,
Week 1.
I have to ask you.
All right.
Have to ask you. Okay.
I'm ready, bro.
This is a two-headed question,
I'm
and I
eating.
completely understand it if you only answer one part.
I'm eating tonight.
All right. So I'm going to frame this in two ways, okay? Number one, are you happy about the win even though it could have been a loss? And then number two, or 1A.
1A.
Is this another example of the Steelers playing down to an opponent, which we have seen them do for the last 5 years at different times? So I'm just going to throw it on the floor. I'm going to leave that pile there, and if you want to step in it, step in it.
The answer to your question is yes.
To the first part?
Both. The answer is yes
and
on
yes.
both.
Okay.
And that's kind of what I was going to say first is, look, at the end of the day, I will take a win. At the end of the day, you take a win any way you can get a win. Did I want to beat the Cleveland Browns better than 21-18? Yes, I did. Did I think we would? Yes, I did. Do I think this is another example of the Steelers somehow, some way playing down to opponents? Yes. And you know, Chris, I'll ask you, you've been watching football a lot longer than me. There tends to be a big debate on, is playing down to an opponent a thing? Some people tend to think it's not a thing because you have to go out every week and win games, one game at a time. I happen to be on the side that playing down to an opponent is a real thing because I go by position matchups, and when you look at the Steelers, they clearly are the better roster, and I also look at a team like the New England Patriots. The Pittsburgh Steelers want to be the New England Patriots, right? Well, what do the Patriots do when they play bad teams? They kill them.
They pummel them. And I think that if the Steelers are going to be a team that replicates what the Patriots do, they got to win these games better. But at the end of the day... No, to answer your question to me, I think it's a real thing.
Well, yeah.
I mean, I do. Now, because human nature is human nature.
Absolutely.
You and I breathe a sigh of relief when we see Clemson, they're going to play a patsy.
Yeah.
Because we think, okay, Clemson's just so much better than they are.
Right.
And why wouldn't players do that?
Yeah.
On a little bit larger scale.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel the exact same way. And look, at the end of the day, my happiness has kind of outweighed the not happiness because at the end of the day, you did go on the road against a divisional opponent in the opening game, and you won. So you're 1-0 not only in the league, but you're 1-0 in the division on the road first game. That is something to be positive about. But I'm actually going to lead off this game, Chris, a little unorthodox. I kind of usually start with the offense or defense and kind of just go from there. I'm going to lead off with just penalties overall. I'm going to start there, and then we'll move to the offense and defense. Chris, I just kind of talked about how the good has kind of outweighed in terms of how I feel about it. I'm happier than not. One of the big reasons why I'm happy about this win, Chris, is somehow, some way, through some cosmic event, The Steelers managed to win a football game by committing 13 penalties for 134 yards. If I knew nothing about this game, okay, you didn't show me anything else about that box score, the only thing you showed me was 13 penalties for 134 yards, I would have said we lost. I would have 100% said, we're done. There's no way you commit that many penalties with that much yardage and you win a football game.
Right.
So I feel grateful to have committed that many penalties and still won a football game. And it was across the board. The offense committed them. The defense committed them. There were some special teams penalties as well. Just across the board, absolutely terrible. But we'll kind of highlight some of those penalties as we run through. But I did just want to lead off with that. Very impressed we won a game with committing 13 penalties. We'll start with the offensive side of the football today, and we'll start with the frustrating parts of the offensive performance. The first thing I want to talk about is play calling. Chris, I kind of felt like it took Todd Haley until the end of the first half to kind of adjust to what the Browns were doing overall. And the CBS commentators were even talking about it, and I have to give the Browns credit in some areas. It was very clear what they were doing from the get-go. You had their corners playing about 20 feet off the football. You had their, and by the way, what I'm about to say is not an exaggeration because, I like to exaggerate sometimes for just comedic purposes.
Right.
The Browns' safeties were literally playing 30 yards off the football, like literally 30 yards. You'd have the front, and then 30 yards back are your safeties. And it was very, even without being a guru who watches a lot of football film, you know what that defensive mindset is trying to do. You're not letting a big play happen downfield. The Browns came into this game thinking, hey, we're going to embrace the old Dick LeBeau philosophy of you're not taking the top off the defense, we'll tackle the initial catch. Obviously, they didn't want guys like Antonio Brown and Martavis Bryant stretching the field all game, so that's why they came out with that mindset. But Chris, you, sir, have been watching football a lot longer than me, okay? When you see a team playing 30 yards back and they're playing, get ready, split safeties, let me ask you, what kind of plays are you dialing up and where are you throwing the football?
Middle of the field.
Middle of the field. Exactly. Yes. And it's almost like it took Todd Haley until I would say the end of the second second quarter when you saw that big play for the 50-yard gain to Antonio Brown down the middle of the field. I felt like that's when Todd Haley was like, we can do that.
Yeah.
They're playing split safeties 30 yards back. Then wide receiver screens. Folks, I've talked about this a lot with Todd Haley. I want to be very clear about my position on wide receiver screens. I don't think they're a bad play call all the time, okay? There are situations where they work. But when you call them 4 times in a row on one drive, that's a problem for me. And no, that was not an exaggeration for comedic purposes either. On the Steelers' opening offensive drive, they threw 4 screen passes, okay? Wow is right. Now, I will somewhat defend Todd Haley a little bit. The Steelers were penalized 13 times in this game, so when you're behind the chains, I guess it becomes harder to call a football game as a coordinator.
Oh, it
you know what I mean? And
it does mess the play call sheet up.
Yeah, absolutely. Hold on, let me just take a sip of coffee out of this fine elephant cup.
That's some strong
coffee. It's hand painted, by the way.
By Harambe.
Harambe himself gave it to me before he died.
Never.
Cherished gift of mine. But yeah, look, I'm not going to crap on Todd Haley too terribly hard. I did think it took a while for him to adjust, and the screen passes were a little excessive. But in his defense, I don't think any coordinator can anticipate 13 penalties in a single game. That does kind of screw up the game plan a little bit. The next two I want to talk about is the lack of run game. You got to give the Browns credit again here. The run game was not even remotely here for the Steelers in this game. And you could clearly see the Steelers were a little bit stunned by that. I think the Steelers came into this game thinking, yeah, we'll establish the run. This won't be that bad. And then the Browns' front absolutely just destroyed our front, and we couldn't get the run going all game long. And this is where, unfortunately, I don't even want to have this conversation because I don't know what more I can add to the flaming pile of garbage conversation that it is. But we'll talk about it for the sake of podcasting. Talking about Le'Veon Bell. Le'Veon Bell had 10 carries in this game, and he only got 32 yards off of those carries. So obviously the big narrative coming out of that performance was Bell wasn't at camp. He'd played bad because he wasn't at camp. Oh, boy. And all day long, ESPN, Fox, all the beat writers, the bloggers, this has been the big narrative for them. I'm not going to be intellectually dishonest, Chris. When you watch Le'Veon Bell's performance in this game, did he look like Le'Veon Bell? No. No, he did not. There were a couple of carries right off the top of my head where I thought to myself, wow, you are lacking that. Le'Veon Bell's got that amazing ability to read defenses before crossing the line of scrimmage, patiently waiting before committing. I thought that wasn't there at times. He's also got the amazing ability to kind of turn the jets on and off at will. I thought that was lacking at times. I thought his overall reaction time was kind of off. So yes, I will admit that Le'Veon Bell did not look like Le'Veon Bell at times. But Chris, kind of like you say here on the show sometimes, it's not my job to tell fans what to think. I'm just going to get on this podcast and give you my recap of the game, and you do with it what you want. But I am going to be very confident in what I'm about to say. You fans out there, you beat writers, you websites, if that's the number one narrative you're going with for why Bell played a bad game, one of two things is going on. Number one, you are ignorantly going with an argument. You're just kind of running with that lazy argument. Number two, you didn't really watch the game and you whipped out your smartphone and you turned on your ESPN mobile app and you saw 10 for 32 and then you got on your blog and started writing about it. Okay? Can we talk about the run blocking in this game?
I was going to say,
the run blocking was atrocious. It was as atrocious as a run blocking performance as I've ever seen. Now, the line was great out in pass protection. Ben only went down one time in this game. But, man, let me tell you something. Against the run, it was awful. It was absolutely terrible. And also, penalties. That's the next thing I'm going to talk about. Talking about these penalties again. And yes, I am going to be Team Mike Tomlin on this argument. One of the other big stories that's kind of been starting to smolder a little bit today, Chris, is Mike Tomlin. He said it after the game initially and then reiterated it again today in his weekly Tuesday press conference. He blamed penalties more than Le'Veon Bell not being in camp. Okay? And I'm going to defend Mike Tomlin because, Chris, let me ask you a question. The Steelers were penalized a total 5 times in this game. You had offensive holding calls. Now, let me ask you a question. When you're in a 1st and 20, a 2nd and 20 situation, does running the football become ideal?
No.
Absolutely not, it doesn't. So is Mike Tomlin right? Yeah, he kind of is right. It does become hard to run the football when you're highly penalized and you're behind the sticks all game. Tomlin was grilled for that today. Some people even writing about him, saying he was inept and didn't know what was going on. No, I think he's exactly right. And I'm also going to defend Mike Tomlin getting a little testy about the question. It's got to be annoying when you had a lot of good things happen in a game and you only get asked about one thing.
Oh, yeah.
Coaches
have to endure a narrative that the media sort of has crafted.
Yes.
And, I think that's why coaches get ill.
Yeah. Well, it's got to be annoying.
Because they answer the question initially.
And then you get asked 4 or 5 more times.
6 different ways. You get asked the same question 6 different ways. And at some point you just got to say, I answered this question.
Yeah, it is what it is. Oh, and for those of you out there, James Conner didn't have any luck running the football either. James Conner averaged 2 yards a carry in this game. So if you want to run with the Le'Veon Bell wasn't prepared because he wasn't at camp story, you can. But, hey, watch James Conner in this game too. He didn't have any luck with the run blocking. So, yes, I do think there was an aspect to this of he did look a little rusty at times, and I do think you can blame that on the holdout, but don't roll with that as your number one narrative. That's all I'm trying to say. Watch the football game. Look at every side of the coin. Be smart, people. That's all I'm saying. But it was not all bad for the offensive performance, though. Since Bell in the run game wasn't there, it was up to Ben to get things done, and he did. I was very, very happy with how Ben Roethlisberger played in this game. I thought he looked smooth. I thought he looked comfortable. He did have that interception there in the third quarter that ultimately, look, you can argue that's kind of what kept the Browns in the game in a lot of ways, because at that point, it was a 3rd down and 9 play, I believe, at the Browns' 30-yard line. So you're already in field goal range. You can potentially get a touchdown on this drive. If you get a touchdown on this drive, you go up 28-10. Kick a field goal, you're up 24-10. So in a lot of ways, you can kind of argue that Ben's interception maybe kept the Browns in this game a little bit. Now, to talk about the interception a little bit, look, you're going to see Tom Brady make this throw from time to time. You're going to see Drew Brees make it. You're going to see Rodgers make it. These veteran quarterbacks from time to time, Chris, just get stubborn. I will throw the football to you. I will force it to you. You will catch this ball. Right. He's trying to hit Martavis Bryant, who is in stride running over the middle of the field. I think if Ben would have led him a little more to the left and maybe thrown a little bit higher, take advantage of the 6'4" height, maybe it would have worked out. But it wasn't the worst interception I've ever seen in my life. The Browns defender made a nice play on the ball, tipped it, flew back, intercepted. Not the worst thing I've ever seen. It is forgivable. But a very strong day for him overall. 24-36 for 263, 2 touchdowns, which, by the way, Chris, with that win yesterday, Ben Roethlisberger is now the winningest quarterback in Browns history since 1999.
Yeah, I saw that.
Contrary to what you believe about the Browns front office, Ben Roethlisberger is the owner of the Cleveland Browns, everybody. Think about that for a second. Every Browns QB since 99, Ben has more wins than them.
Yeah, that was
wow.
That was pretty amazing.
Wow. And both of his touchdown passes went to Jesse James. Jesse James, Chris, did some things in this game that I don't think I've seen him do ever since he's been here as it relates to the passing game. And I think yesterday was a big, Sunday was a big statement game for Jesse James. Obviously, the Steelers go out and sign Vance McDonald in free agency. Mike Tomlin is talking about how this tight end group has not been consistent. And I bet James took that a little personally. I'm sure that lit a little bit of a fire under him. He finished the day with 6 catches for 41 yards, 2 touchdown passes, and by the way, caught both of those touchdown passes in the red zone. One of the areas that Jesse James really let us down in last year was the red zone. We expected him to be a big red zone threat for us, and he kind of failed us in that area. So for him to catch 2 big touchdown passes this year, or this first game, I thought was very impressive for him. So big day for Jesse James, and hopefully he can grow, and this can kind of become a every game sort of a thing for him. And then there's Antonio Brown, folks. Chris, that man's so good that it hurts sometimes. The famous evil Mike Tomlin Twitter profile. I don't know if you follow that profile, but you should. It's easily one of the funniest profiles on Twitter. They said it best on Sunday. Having him on your team is like having a human cheat code. His awareness, his reaction times, everything about this guy's game is mind-boggling to me.
I'm sorry, did you say sheep coat?
Sheep coat.
Did you say he's like having a human sheep coat?
Cheat code. But I'm sure with all that money he's making, he probably has a sheep coat.
I was thinking, well, a human sheep coat?
A sheep coat.
I guess in the cold weather, that'd be awesome.
Oh, sure. I'd want to be a human sheep coat. And the sheep coat.
Okay.
Comment below. You like sheep? We like sheep.
Sorry about that.
Or maybe you're those people who don't wear wool.
Right. We don't wear wool.
No. Cheat code. And there are 3 catches that I want to highlight. Obviously, we're going to get to the big one that ultimately sealed the game. But there's 2 other catches that I want to highlight. First one, Ben hits him on a quick slant. Okay. The ball is also tipped on this slant too, Chris. And the thing about these quick slant throws is those plays are designed to, right when the quarterback says hike, get the ball out quick. Okay? It's not like you're having a 3-step drop. It's hike, I'm throwing to you. So as a receiver, you have a limited to almost no amount of time to react to the play. Okay?
Right.
The ball is tipped. Antonio Brown somehow, some way has the reaction time to see the ball is tipped, wait, then catch it, and then take it for a gain. To me, I don't know if in that short period of time most receivers can make that adjustment. The big 50-yard game where he took it downfield. That ball was also tipped. He's already in full stride, and most of the time, man, when the ball is tipped and you're full stride in your route, you're done as a receiver. It's hard to come back from that, but AB somehow does it. And then, of course, the game-clinching play, 2:47 in the fourth, 2nd and 12 from their own 18. Ben gets flushed out of the pocket, basically just chucks it down the field to Brown. Folks, he caught that ball in triple coverage. I mean, he had 3 Browns around him, somehow hauled that thing down. They tried to overturn it. They challenged it. It was clearly a catch. Antonio Brown just continues to blow the argument out of the water that small receivers can't be physical. That, you need to be 6'3", 6'4" to be able to make contested catches in traffic. AB laughs at you. He laughs at that argument. I know AB continues to just... I know we talk about him all the time, but he just continues to blow my mind on a year-to-year basis. I don't think I've gotten used to how good he is quite yet. That pretty much does it for my offensive discussion. Moving on to the defense. Look, obviously the defensive performance was not perfect. There's obviously some things we can sit here and nitpick. They did share in the 13 penalties. Some of them I thought were bad calls, including that pass interference on Sean Davis. There was a holding call on Artie Burns that I did not agree with. I thought the hit to the head by William Gay, that was forgivable because, look, man, that's just one of those unlucky plays where you're flying in as a defender, you're already at full speed, and it's just kind of hard to make that adjustment at that point. Also, I completely agree with Mike Tomlin being irate over there on the sideline. They threw that flag a solid minute after the play was dead, okay? I know Gay hit him in the head, but if you're going to throw a flag, throw the flag. Don't wait until a solid 60 seconds after a play. I'm sorry. And then you just had some infuriating penalties. The late hits by Ryan Shazier and the one by TJ Watt I thought were just unacceptable, just undisciplined plays. You got to be better than that. You got to be smarter than that. You can blame the coach all you want for those type of penalties. I think that's just common sense, man. You know better than to do hits like that. Obviously, the secondary struggled a little bit at times. As a whole, though, I was happy with our secondary performance. I thought they were very solid. But no doubt there were some struggles at times. I thought Kaiser from time to time had some nice, decent throws down the field, sometimes over the middle of the field, which still really bothers me about this secondary. I feel like there are definitely times where teams can really move the ball over the middle of the field easy on this defense. And I'd also be wrong to not acknowledge some of the good fortune that the Steelers got at times. Kenny Britt dropped a wide open pass over the middle of the field that would have went for probably a big gain of like 20. And then there was another time Kaiser had a guy wide open down the right sideline. There was some kind of communication error between Joe Hayden and Sean Davis. He was wide open. He just stepped out of bounds when he caught it. So a lot of good fortune there. But as a whole, did see a lot more man-to-man coverage in this game. I thought the work that Artie Burns and Joe Hayden did as a whole was absolutely fantastic. Joe Hayden, I thought, had a great debut. Also had a sack as well. Was very impressed by that. Good game from him. All in all, very impressed with the secondary performance. Hopefully we can still kind of close some of these holes, especially in the middle of the field. And against the run, Chris, I was talking about it before the beginning of the season, man. I expect the Steelers to be a great team against the run, and they were in this opening game. Chris, the Browns only had 57 yards of total rushing in this game, averaged only 2 yards per carry on the game. Much like the Steelers, you could tell the Browns came into this game really trying to establish the run, and they just weren't having any of it. Watching the push that Hayward, Hargrave, Tyson Aluala had up the middle all game long, just monstrous. They murdered that Browns offensive line. So I'm very happy about where this team is against the run. Have no complaints there. And then, of course, the pass rush. Chris, I don't have a single complaint here, man. Deshaun Kaiser went down a total of 7 times on the day. And what was encouraging about this, folks? Chris, what did we talk about before the season? The Steelers want to get consistent pressure, and how many do they want to do it with? 4.
Oh, yeah, they want to go 4.
They want to do it with 4. Shout out, Chet. They want to do it with 4, and the pressure came with 4 pretty much all game long. Now, obviously, Keith Butler mixed it up. Sometimes you had Ryan Shazier and Vince Williams coming down the middle. You'd have Chickalo or Watt dropping into coverage or vice versa. He was creative about it, but for the most part, you got pressure with 4 all game long, and that was more than encouraging to me. And then, of course, TJ Watt. We'll talk about him just for a second. Not a better way to have an NFL debut, in my opinion. Had 2 sacks on the day. 2 out of those 7 sacks were from him. Also had an interception to cap off the day as well. Chris, man, this is a guy who's going to have no problem, in my opinion, going over 10 sacks per season. At least 10 or more. We talked about it before the season with TJ Watt. I think the thing that is going to be his strongest ally is his endurance and his motor. This dude just won't quit. The thing about him that I love watching, and you could see it several times, he may beat you initially, but he'll try something else. He'll try a different move. He'll try to dip. That may not work. He'll try to use his hands. If that doesn't work, he'll go to something else. He just will not let up on plays. And I want to echo something John Ledyard said, which, by the way, those of you who might be wondering, John Ledyard is probably one of the best in the business at film breakdown scouting. He's amazing. Follow him on Twitter. But he did a film breakdown on Watt, and he pointed out something that I thought was brilliant. He said, folks, when you watch the work that TJ Watt did in this game, who was it against? It was against Joe Thomas. Joe Thomas is who he went against. Joe Thomas is one of the best left tackles in this game. Everybody loves Joe Thomas. Everybody looks at him as one of the best left tackles there's ever been. Ledyard's point was, if TJ Watt can do this to Joe Thomas, what does he do against some of these smaller, lesser-known left tackles? I am more than impressed with where he is right now. His technique and his football IQ, I think, are farther along than we all realize. I'm sure a lot of that has to do with his family name. But, folks, TJ Watt is an absolute beast. I thought the interception was beautiful. A lot of people are going to grill Deshaun Kaiser for that throw, but, man, give TJ Watt credit. He climbed the ladder to make that throw, dude. He's already 6'5". He's got the long arms, but he had to go way up there to get that football. So that was just a nice play by him to drop into coverage. Kind of gave the illusion that he wasn't paying attention. It was almost like Ryan Shazier intercepting a pass, gave a good illusion that he wasn't paying attention, right. Baited the quarterback his way. So you combine his pass rushing talent with his ability to possibly cover as well. This guy's going to be an absolute animal. All of a sudden, Jarvis Jones is kind of a distant memory, and the future is bright with Watt.
I see what you did there.
He got it.
I see what you did there.
Laugh at me.
What's working?
Laugh at me in the comments. I'm funny, and you know I am. And last but not least, I want to highlight this guy as well, Anthony Chickillo. He came away with 2 of those 7 sacks on the day, much like TJ Watt. I thought he was absolutely ferocious coming off that left side. Also, recovered the block punt in the end zone for a touchdown. And it was encouraging to see Chickillo have a game like that since Bud Dupree did not play in this game. And I want to pause here very briefly on Bud Dupree. Chris, I am starting to get worried about Bud Dupree. I will just go ahead and say it for the record. I'm not fear-mongering, but I am getting worried about this guy. This guy's health is really starting to worry me. Obviously misses half the season last year with a groin injury. Missed about all of training camp with some sort of weird lingering injury. Returned the last 2 preseason games. Then the week going into playing the Browns, all of a sudden he's not practicing with a shoulder injury.
Yeah.
So, like I said, guys, I'm not trying to fearmonger, but I am genuinely worried about where this guy's health is right now. I am. And what's encouraging to me is when you look at how Anthony Chickillo played in this game, that gives you a little bit of hope. At least you know he can do that if a guy like Dupree is going to be down. I hope not. We need this guy to get back down the stretch, I think, if we're going to be successful. But I was encouraged with him. And also, very, very quickly, want to highlight the first big play of the game, the blocked punt. Tyler Matakevich shooting up the middle, Anthony Chickillo recovering in the end zone for a touchdown. What I want to say about that play, Chris, is when you think about it, that play kind of won them the game.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, when you think about how close the game got, yeah.
Well, I mean, think about this. The Browns scored their last touchdown with how long?
In the fourth quarter. Well, with I'd say about 5-6 minutes to go.
All things being equal, if you take away that block punt, this is a 14-10 game.
Well, and they also went for 2 and got it, so it's 21-18 at that point. So you're thinking, holy cow.
Yeah.
So when you think back to that block punt, yeah, that kind of saved the day in a lot of ways. Couldn't have known it at that point, but it did. Anyway, guys, that kind of does it for my game recap. I guess I'll reiterate what I said at the beginning. Would I have liked to beat the Cleveland Browns a lot more than 21-18? Yes. Am I altogether satisfied? No. But will I take a win on the road in an opening game against a division opponent? Yes, I will. This team is playing a very tough game in Heinz Field next week against the Minnesota Vikings, a game that after watching Monday Night Football last night, I am very nervous about. The Steelers are going to need to be better.
You're nervous. We got to play the Rams. They put 46 points up against...
What a weird...
Or was it the 49ers? They beat the Colts so bad, Chuck Pagano couldn't even remember who he got beat by.
Yeah.
He said he got beat by the 49ers.
He needs to go in the concussion protocol.
Right. I think that dude got concussed.
What weird dimension do we live in where we have to say the Rams are a scary team?
Well, they are if you're the Redskins.
Yeah, well. But anyway, I will take the win, but this team is going to have to be much better, much more disciplined, and cut down a lot of these mistakes when they play a great team like the Minnesota Vikings. But 1-0 is 1-0, and you're not going to find me ever crying about that too much.
You don't apologize for wins.
Okay. That's going to do it for me, guys. Let's kick it over to the voice of the Washington Redskins. His name is CGLSKSC. Not really. That's his Twitter handle. His real name's Chris. Chris. Okay, so I'm going to ask you a question, and I'm going to leave the pile there for you, and then I'm going to let you do what you want with said pile. So, here's how I'm going to frame my question. Question number 1 is, it's only game number 1. Is the sky falling? Question number 2, are you I hate to ask the question, but I'm going to ask it.
You have to.
Are you beginning to have a change of heart towards one Kirk Cousins?
Okay.
So there's the pile. The mic is now yours, sir.
Man, okay. I'm just going to go ahead and step in it. I never say the sky is falling after a week 1 loss.
Okay.
And part of that is because the Redskins generally lose in week 1, and I haven't been hit with a cloud yet. So
now, does this make Jake Gruden 0 and?
He's 0-4 in openers. We haven't won an opener actually since 2012. I think you have to go in 2012. Let's see. I think we won our opener in 2011 too. So yeah, and 10. Okay. All right.
Anyway.
All right. Anyway, so I always have to be careful going crazy. I'm exactly like you. I try not to enter into groupthink after just one game.
Absolutely.
Because we watched the Redskins start 0-2 last year, and when the smoke cleared after 10 games, they were 6-3-1.
And then they went through that 4-game win streak there for a second.
Yeah, so it can happen. Am I happy about the way they played? No.
Yeah.
Am I losing? And I'll just go ahead and get the Kirk Cousins. Just go ahead and get the Kirk Cousins analysis out of the way. Am I off the bandwagon? No. Am I concerned? Yes. I'm still a big Kirk Cousins fan, but there are some things that have happened now that are beyond trends.
It's becoming a thing.
It's a thing.
Yeah.
It's a habit now.
Yeah.
And poor starts, wet in the bed in key situations, throwing that pick.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you can't do that.
Not to mention when he had, a couple of missed throws as well.
Well, no, he was high all day. It wasn't just a couple of throws here and there. I mean, he had some just he had some horrible throws. He had a throw early in the game that should have been picked. He did not get helped out by Terrell Pryor at all, working back to the football. That could have very easily been picked. He did not handle pressure well at all. At all.
And Kirk typically doesn't, to be honest with you, man.
No, he doesn't. Now, one thing that's interesting about Kirk is, and this is kind of a hard stat to quantify, but when these NFL next-gen stat outfits, they say that Kirk Cousins, when he is under duress, and I'm not sure how they quantify that, they talk about how bad he is, but against blitzes, which is 6 or more rushers, he's generally pretty solid in terms of making teams pay for that, or he was last year. This year, this game was just incredibly disappointing. Way too many throws off of his back foot. He was not driving, not transferring anything from his back to his front foot. Wasn't driving on throws. The interception, that's a play, and Chris Cooley broke it down this morning in a very impressive way. He said, look, you've got a zero blitz, which is, in other words, you've got cover zero behind. It's all-out blitz, man coverage. Right. Your first read, generally in those situations, is the deeper read, which was Terrell Pryor breaking on the post. And then working underneath was Jamison Crowder. And Kirk came off of his read to Pryor. Cooley said if it's him, he's throwing the ball to the goalpost. At that point, you're driving the ball back of the end zone, let your receiver go get it. He comes off that. There's Pryor wide open. I mean, not Pryor. There's Crowder wide open. All you have to do is make a throw.
Yep.
It does not have to be a bullet. It just has to be a throw, and it just has to get to him. You get a first down, maybe even a touchdown.
Yeah.
Kirk, if you watch the tape, completely off the back foot, arm angle's funny, and the ball just sailed. And that's frustrating. That is frustrating that we are here year 3.
Yeah.
And I'm not even sure he made that throw in his first year as a starter under Gruden.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess he did. I'm not saying Kirk didn't throw interceptions, but I'm talking bad game back-breaking interceptions.
Yeah.
So to say that I was disappointed in Kirk's play is probably an understatement. The offensive line was horrible in this game.
Yeah, it was.
Now, when you go back and kind of look at some film, the one-on-ones, I really felt like my first impression was that Brandon Sheriff had a horrible game. That's not exactly true. He gave up 1 sack on a play. Otherwise, he was pretty solid. The guy that had a horrible game was Morgan Moses.
Morgan Moses, yeah.
Gave up 3 sacks. It came out later that he was playing with an ankle injury. Well, my thing is this, man. If this guy is Olaying it like he was and just letting guys go by him, if he's not healthy, sit him and get Nsekhe in there. Because he was not effective on any level.
Yeah, and Ty Nsekhe's been solid when he's been.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, there was no need to stretch that one out like that. Sean Laval, I mean, he has a typical game, lunges a lot, just typical game. But overall, when you go back and watch it, this O-line picked up a lot of those blitzes. Now there were three sacks. The two fumbles, I have a real problem blaming Kirk for in any way. I mean, guys were on him on those situations.
Sure. It's hard to
It was not like Kirk sat back there for 4 seconds holding the ball nonchalantly and got hit from behind and he fumbled. That's when you blame the quarterback. That was not the case on either fumble. I'll go ahead and get this out of the way, folks. If you want to hammer on the NFL for not making the correct call, which I think his arm was going forward, that's my opinion. But I'm biased. It's the Redskins. I'm going to be biased. But when you go back and you watch it real time, that was a close call.
Yeah, it really was.
And unfortunately, the call on the field is sort of becomes the guideline.
Yeah,
we've seen that time and again.
And as a referee, you at that point you've got to make a choice.
Exactly. And of course, a lot of people have kind of hammered on the refs, saying, "Well, I just went with my gut." I mean, I applaud the guy for just being honest.
Yeah.
It looked like an empty hand. The game, we did not lose the game on that. We didn't. Do we really think we were going to go down? I mean, I would love the opportunity.
Yeah.
But I can't sit here and honestly tell you that I had any confidence at that point that somehow we were going to go down the field and score a touchdown.
Right.
But I don't know. We just didn't do that. The offensive line's got to play better. My problem is this, Patrick, and I'll leave this right here. Right now, we finished the year 2-4 in our last 6 after being 6-3-1 heading into week 11. And we got killed in those 4 games by good defensive lines.
Right.
The Eagles have a good defensive line.
Oh, one of the best.
And they
Absolutely.
do. Jim Schwartz is a good defensive coordinator.
Yes.
We did not handle that well at all. We didn't do enough to handle that. And then when you put that with a guy like Jay Gruden, who is very quick, doesn't do a good job integrating a running game into a game plan anyway.
Yeah.
He's looking for the door pretty quick on a run, I feel like. He abandons the run. We had 2 red zone possessions in this game. We did not run the ball one time in the red zone, not once.
That's terrible play calling,
not once. And I feel like I'm too old school. I understand that. But, man...
No, you're not, though. You're really not.
I mean, make the defense honor the run.
Yes.
Make them honor the run.
Yes. You've
not
got
hard.
You've got 2 pounded-out runners in P. Ryan and Kelly. Give them a chance.
Exactly. Or you've got Chris Thompson.
Yeah, who's solid.
Give it to him on the outside. Give him a pitch.
Yeah, he can bounce around.
Do something to make that defense feel like, hey, they're coming at us with a run here. We've got to honor it.
Yeah.
So I was not happy with the red zone play calling.
And to be clear, Gruden is calling plays.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, okay. This is on him. And I don't think Gruden, since he's been here, I mean, I know we talk about, I know Gruden talks about, we want to run the football. We want to run the football. This was a game that the Redskins, once the initial deficit was 13-0, Kerrigan's interception cut it to 13-7. We score before the half. We're up 14-13. They kick a bit from that point. In the second half, we didn't run the football anywhere near enough.
Right.
And this was a game that we were down at one point 16-14, 19-14, then 19-17. They were just we were not effective running the football, but I don't think Rob Kelly had a good day running the football.
Yeah.
Chet and I were talking about how it just seemed like he cut into the area where one guy was all the time.
Yeah.
Even when he was able to get past the line of scrimmage, it never felt like he found the right hole. Mm. Not really happy with that run game at all. They got to get better, but again,
how much of that is run blocking?
The run blocking was not good, but I'm just not sure. And I guess I'm just going to vent here. Jay Gruden's not a run guy; he's a pass guy, and that's just not. He's never really created a culture of physicality when it comes to the run game. There, I said it. Can it? Have we had some bursts? Yes. And I think Jay's the kind of guy that, hey, if we can get there, that's fine. But I don't think he's going to work at it.
You don't think he's going to commit to it?
I just don't think he's going to. I don't think he's going to commit to a point where he's going to say, "Look, I don't care what else happens today. We are going to run the football and we're going to run it good."
Well, and also don't look. There is some blame on Kirk Cousins' part. There's no question about that. But to defend him a little bit, how much pressure does it take off of him if you can establish a run game?
Well, I agree.
You know?
The other thing is this. I felt like the game plan early in this game was really bad. Kirk Cousins' strength is the quick game, the short game.
Yeah.
He's better at it. He's effective, and we have effective players at it. We have Jordan Reed, who is uncoverable in those areas.
Yeah.
Jamison Crowder, not coverable. That's where you need to be attacking early and get Kirk into a flow. Then work out deeper.
Yeah.
First play of the game, he throws a nice pass, and Terrell Pryor, who had a horrible game, just a horrible game, loses it in the sun. No ball tracking going on there.
Now, statistically wise, it wasn't a bad day for him, but then again, I guess it's one of those deals where you got to watch the whole game.
Yes, you watch the whole game. He dropped a pass. He dropped several passes. He dropped what should have been a 50-yard touchdown pass. It was like, I don't think Kirk almost ran up and handed it to him. But dude, the way Terrell caught that thing, it was like Kirk threw a cobra at him, and he was like, "Dude, I ain't catching that. Who catches a snake? Not me. Catching one in the stomach."
In that case, you're a smart man.
Exactly. But anyway, he was fighting to not catch that ball, but we were called for holding, so it would have negated it anyway.
You think you told Kirk that? I saw a cobra, bro.
Bro, that snake was coming.
That was a cobra.
But anyway, I didn't feel like game plan. I felt like we really tried to force it to Terrell. And this is the kind of chemistry that he and Kirk Cousins have to build. Can't be forced. You got to let it develop naturally. And the Redskins have a way to do that with the quick game. I just think Gruden tried to go too hard down the field in that area.
If we could pause here just very briefly, I'm glad you're talking about it because I wanted to ask you, what is Terrell Pryor to this team? What do you want him to be in this receiving core?
We need him to be our number one receiver on the outside. That's what we need him to be.
Okay. I mean, I think
he can get there. I'm not saying just because this was a bad game that he's garbage.
Oh,
at
absolutely,
all.
Yeah. I mean, I like Terrell Pryor.
He is not a nuanced receiver right now. There was a play where Cousins went to him in the end zone. He read left. Cooley broke it down and said, "Look, in that situation, in that read, it's dealer's choice." Kirk chose to read the left side of the field, which was the wide side of the field, which generally that's the smart play. On the short side of the field, Ryan Grant had completely broken open. Nobody within 20 yards of him in the end zone. Kirk never got his head around to see it. He throws to Terrell Pryor, who just flatted his route out. It was supposed to be a corner, and he never really did anything to win or create any kind of leverage against the defensive back, and it just ends up looking like a jump ball. He's got some growing to do.
And you talked about that in the offseason. You said that there's going to be chemistry issues at times with this guy.
I just feel like we've got enough weapons to where we don't have to accentuate it. And I felt like in this game,
you were forcing the ball to
Pryor. We tried to force it too much and let him find the things he does well, work those, and then get the other stuff as it comes.
Okay.
But again, our offensive line's got to get better. Our run game, I mean, we just have to run the football, but it's got to be better. Everything has to be better. The biggest producer in this game was Chris Thompson. I mean, dude, that 29-yard touchdown catch was a thing of beauty. This guy balls out. We got to get the ball in his hands more, especially in the run game. That's just it. But again, I think he's got to do a better job. I think Jay has to do a better job calling this game, trying to get his quarterback into a groove early in the game. Defensively, I'm not going to say a ton. I felt like our pressure was solid. We just need to learn how to tackle the quarterback. We do. We had way too many times where Carson Wentz broke. First third down of the game, he breaks out of a sack, breaks out of a tackle, and a 58-yard touchdown pass. I thought our corners, Bashad Breeland, Josh Norman, and Kendall Fuller played excellent. Carson Wentz really didn't do anything on a man-to-man situation. Where we had our biggest problems were in the zone. Yeah. We did a horrible job against Zach Ertz. I was encouraged by our run defense, completely handled LeGarrette Blount. I'm hoping that continues. I was heartened by that.
Yeah.
But this is the last. This is where I want to park for the rest of the thing. The big thing we talked about, folks, was third downs for this defense would be a really good measuring stick of how far we come. Right now, we haven't come far enough defensively or offensively. And I want to compare these two, okay? The Philadelphia Eagles went 8 of 14. That's 57% in third downs. Can't do that. You can't live. You can't win football games.
Yep.
Now, our offense turned the football over 4 times. Unforgivable. The defense forced 2. Ryan Kerrigan had a fantastic game.
The pick six, yeah.
And he had a half a sack. Guy was fantastic. Thought Jonathan Allen played great. Kudos to Zach Brown.
Yep.
Haven't seen a linebacker play like that
dog.
in Washington since London Fletcher. But amid all the good, 8 of 14. Now, here's what I want to do. I made some notes, which is really rare for me.
And they're not electronic like mine.
They're straight up
it's hardcore.
old school,
paper.
hard copy. The Philadelphia Eagles found themselves in 3rd and 10 or longer on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times. They found themselves in 3rd and 10. Okay, that should be a win for the defense. They converted 1, 2, 3. They converted 40% of those. 40%. Yeah. One of those was a 58-yard touchdown pass. Another one was a 30-yard completion that was a part of a scoring drive. Another 3rd and 10 was a 23-yard completion to Ertz. Okay? The average goal to go, here's what frustrates me, okay? The average goal to go for the Eagles in this game was 8.7. That means the Redskins were doing their job on 1st and 2nd down more often than not. The average 3rd down that the Eagles faced was about 3rd down and 9, and they still converted 8 out of 14.
Holy cow, dude.
That says a lot. The Eagles had 142 yards passing on 3rd down in this game. Now, Carson Wentz went for over 300. The Redskins did do a good job holding them to a field goal after the intercept. Holding them to a field goal to make it 22-17, the last offensive score. I thought the Redskins did a better job in this game of fighting once the Eagles crossed midfield, but still got to get off the field on 3rd down.
Yeah.
You have to.
It's how you win football games, yeah.
And 142 yards on 3rd down, you can't live like that. What you can live with is the average the average to go on 3rd down in this game was 8.7 yards. That's great, but you just got to convert it to 4th downs. You got to get off the field. So structurally, I was happy with a lot of the 3rd down situations that we put the Eagles in. We just didn't finish. Didn't finish.
Yeah.
We did hold them 2 out of their last 6 3rd downs, which was decent. That's better, but just way too many big ones early that led to points.
Yeah.
On the flip side, the Redskins were only 3 for 11 on 3rd down. Their average yards to go was 8.18. So basically, we had the same amount of basically 3rd and 8s. They found a way to convert 8. We only converted 3. They got 142 yards on 3rd down. We got 24 yards on 3rd down.
Jeez, man.
24 yards on 3rd down.
Whoa.
I think we only completed 1 pass, if I'm reading this right, for a 1st down on 3rd down.
Jeez, man.
That was an 11-yard pass to Mike Quick. Not Mike Quick. Yeah, I am thinking old
Might as
school,
well
the
be
Eagles
Mike
receiver. Brian Quick. My point in all this, our average per play on 3rd down was 2 yards. That's what we averaged on 3rd down. The Eagles averaged 10.1 yards
Sad
per
Kirk.
play.
Ooh-wee.
So if you want to go a little deeper on the stats, yes, if you commit 4 turnovers, you're generally going to lose.
By the way, solid stat work here by our boy CGLSKC. Primetime stat work.
But if you go a little deeper, the Eagles beat them on a much different level on 3rd down.
It was you guys 3rd downs versus their 3rd downs.
That's what it boiled down.
Yeah.
And I'm going to kind of look at this all year because it was such a glaring deficiency in our defense last year.
Mm-hmm.
And I got to thinking, well, we hammer on the defense about it, but what does our offense look like?
Sure.
So I'm going to try to keep up with it all year and just kind of get an idea of where we were at third down wise. But by going by those numbers, this game isn't something that you would think we'd win.
Yeah.
But again, we've got a long way to go. I don't know if we're hungover from last year. Right now, in our last 7 games, we're 2-5.
Could I ask you an annoying question? And I know maybe you don't want to answer this, but is there a little bit of optimism on your part, seeing how you guys played a poor game? There's no other way to say it. Amid playing a poor game, you guys still were in a real chance to win this football game. Is there a part of you that looks at that and says, okay, if we can clean some of this up, maybe we can win games? Because look, the Eagles didn't score that final touchdown until late in the game.
Well, yeah, I mean, and it was. I mean, we were obviously trying to go down and score that drive to take the lead.
I'm just saying, are you a little bit encouraged that even with all the mistake making?
No.
Okay.
No, because we're
I tried.
We're 4 years in. I mean, I keep saying 4 years. We're 3 years into this now.
Yeah.
And we still have not figured out a way over the past season and a half. All of the last half of this year, preseason this year, and then this first game, we are really not getting off to good starts in games. Yeah. And I don't know what to tell them to do to fix it. If I could fix it, I'd be a coach. But I'm not. I don't know what to tell you to fix it. I'm not anywhere near as smart as Jay Gruden is. But Jay Gruden right now hasn't been able to get over that hump either.
Yeah.
So no, I'll watch this game with a lot of disdain. I mean, I was just really ill because it's become typical. It's become what we are.
Yeah, and when it happens on a year-to-year basis,
yeah, and I want to love this team, man. I want to stand up and salute these dudes. We have some good players on this team. I want to love Kirk Cousins, but I don't know, man. That was bad football.
That was bad football.
That was just bad football, and to kind of come out of there with your best foot. I mean, I'll tell you what gripes me too, and we only have ourselves to blame, but it just gripes me when you hear at the end of the game, you hear more Eagles fans hollering than Redskins fans.
Yeah,
it just
that's
burns
tough.
Me up.
That's tough.
But that's kind of where we're at. But yeah, so got to play the Rams this week. Got to figure out a way to get a win.
Yeah, against Jared Goff.
Yeah, who looked pretty good.
Yeah, it did look pretty good. Yeah. All right. That about wrap it up for your recap?
That's it. That's all I got.
So, Chris, those of you who have listened to the Steelskin show for a good period of time now, you know this is a segment we do every single game recap, and it's a painful segment to do if your team loses. I've been there. Player of the week. Chris, I know the Redskins had a very tough loss, but who would you consider your #Redskins player of the week?
Ryan Kerrigan.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Ryan Kerrigan.
Okay.
I mean, that interception was awesome.
Yep.
I mean, he was in the right place, right time. He made a great play, and he completely changed the complexion of that ball game with that interception return.
Yeah. I'm going to go I want to go TJ Watt because he's a rookie and because he had an incredible debut, but I'm going to have to go Antonio Brown in this one, man. 11 catches, 144, including that amazing catch in triple coverage that ultimately sealed the game and allow us to end the game in victory formation. So Antonio Brown is my #Steelers player of the week. All right, Chris, moving on to our last and final segment before we close it out here. News headlines. Chris, if any news headlines?
The only thing I found interesting was Jay Gruden talking about why Josh Dotson only played 20 snaps. He basically said, hey, he's got to earn it. He's got to practice. Until then, until that magic number is hit, I guess we'll have Ryan Grant, who actually had a productive game, 4 catches, 61 yards.
Yeah. Well, I mean, do you agree, and Manny Bitton, a good friend of ours who we shout out here in the show, I read a tweet that he put out the other day about Josh Dotson, and he said he's never going to learn sitting on a bench. And he said it's time to take the bubble wrap off.
Totally agree.
Yeah.
Totally agree. I'm really something is going on. I can't put my finger on what's going on, but something's going on. I don't know if they're trying to send a message to Josh Dotson. I don't know if they're not happy with him. I don't know if he's not practicing the way they want him to. I mean, something is going on because you just don't play first-round picks who are finally healthy and ready to go. You just don't see those dudes sit like that if everything's okay.
Right.
I just something's going on. Can't put my finger on it. But that was kind of the really big news for me.
Okay. All right. Moving on to the Steelers news headlines. Obviously, this is the big one. After injuring his bicep on the second play of the game, defensive end Stephon Tuitt, who just signed a 5-year, $61 million extension, left the game and did not return. It was reported after the game that the suspected diagnosis was a bicep tear, and at that point, that would have been the end of the season for him. It was bleak. But the MRIs came back yesterday. We can all breathe a big sigh of relief. He did not tear his bicep, and he is being considered day-to-day right now. Now, Mike Tomlin in his weekly press conference today said, and I don't believe him for a second, he said that he actually has a chance to go this week.
Yeah, I don't see that.
I mean, I was encouraged. That is more than encouraging to hear. Because, look, I want to be clear. Tyson Aluala did not have a solid game. He had a great game in his place. But down the stretch, Stephon Tuitt is invaluable to this team's success. We got to get this guy back on the field. But here's what I will say. You don't want to rush this guy back and then tear the bicep.
No, exactly.
You know, be careful with him.
I think that's just Tomlin's way of, trying to plant something in the other team's head.
Sure. And coaches do that.
Little gamesmanship. Yeah. You don't give it up till you have to.
Yeah. So he's week to week. That's encouraging, but I want him to take his time, get better. Big sigh of relief there. That would have been the worst,
that was huge.
Especially after signing the 5-year, $61 million extension. What a bad way to go out. And then the last news headline we have is J.J. Wilcox, new safety J.J. Wilcox. He is in the concussion protocol right now on that touchdown pass that Kaiser had. J.J. Wilcox, kind of ironically, got called for a helmet-to-helmet and gave himself a concussion. That was just like, wow. You could see it right when he made that hit. You could see the arms go down by his side and flop, fell to the ground. I mean, it was clear he knocked himself out. I thought that was a very careless, foolish hit. We all know Wilcox is known for hitting hard, but don't necessarily want to hit like that, and you don't want to go for the other guy's head, so he's definitely going to have to clean that up. But he is in the concussion protocol right now. I was hoping that because of that, the Steelers would go out and get Jordan Dangerfield back today.
Right.
But they didn't. So, no, I'm still salty about that. And last but not least, okay, I'm really trying to figure out this whole L.J. Fort and Steven Johnson debacle. This goes back to last season as well. L.J. Fort was released today by the Steelers. And Steven Johnson is signed back to the Steelers. I've been trying to figure out what the Steelers see in this situation. Steven Johnson's a tremendous special teams player, but L.J. Fort is so much more valuable. He gives you snaps at actual linebacker. He can play special teams. He's so much better than Johnson. I don't know. I honestly have no analysis for you guys, unfortunately. I have no idea how to explain this. The Steelers, I guess it's like Ryan Grant with you guys. We just love Steven Johnson.
Yeah.
Johnson was signed today. If I had to give you any kind of analysis, I say this was planned from the start. Wait till that hamstring injures, get him back as soon as possible.
Bring him back, yep.
And that's unfortunate. I have a feeling because L.J. Fort was released twice last year and then signed back, there's a part of me that feels like we have not seen the last of L.J. Fort, and I certainly hope not because I really like that guy. That's it. That's all my news headlines. Chris, questions, comments, concerns, sir? Okay, that wraps it up for me. Guys, remember to follow us on Twitter. We are at Steelskin Show. Remember to follow us. I am at P_Garrison. He is at CGLSKSC. Remember to like the show on Facebook, facebook.com/Steelskin Show. And YouTube, you know what to do. Subscribe to the channel, comment below, join the conversation. And iTunes, if you're listening on iTunes, please rate the show. Please subscribe and write a review. That's going to help you boys out. Everybody, that's going to do it for us tonight. Until next time, have a good evening.